It was one of the milestone days in the history of the Methodist Church in Janesville, Wisconsin, May 17, 1959. With pastors and members of the congregation present, a ceremonial groundbreaking was held for what would become the new church home of the Cargill Methodist Church on Wesley Avenue. Everyone was smiling that day, but putting shovel into ground was far easier than the process that led to Cargill leaving its downtown church home, where it had worshiped since the early 1900s. As early as the 1950s, Cargill Methodist Church debated what to do with a building that needed repairs and was deemed too small to house a growing congregation. Cost was an obstacle, but so was a divided congregation about how to address the future. The first vote of the building committee to decide whether to stay at Court and Franklin Streets or build a new building was 12 to 12. The church council also voted, and that tally was 21 to 21. Ultimately, the congregation voted 591 to 540 to move to a new site. A site committee began working on where to build a new church. The telephone company helped church leaders determine that the greatest future growth in Janesville would be on the east side. The committee looked at 16 potential sites. Cargill almost purchased the parcel on Milwaukee Avenue where the U-Haul now stands, but lost out on closing the deal when another buyer moved in 2 days earlier. Eventually, Cargill purchased the present site on Harmony Drive for $31,000. In this photo, taken in the early 1950s, the only development in the area was the extensive Fairview plant farm, essentially where the Family Video and Fairview Mall now stand. The Cargill Church was built just above and to the right of the center of this photo. The street you see running diagonally in the photo is Harmony Drive. The Cargill Church building, constructed at the height of the influence of Christendom in the United States in the mid-20th century, was one of the largest Methodist structures in Wisconsin, and its congregation one of the largest in terms of members. 19 months after the groundbreaking, Cargill Methodist held the first service in its new building on December 4, 1960. On that day, 551 people gathered in the old building at Court and Franklin Streets for a deconsecration service, and then traveled in an automobile procession to the new church at 2000 Wesley Avenue. Reverend William Riggs took the altar cross, Associate Pastor Arnold Nielsen took the pulpit Bible, the ushers took candelabra and altar candles, and each person in the congregation took a hymn book and proceeded out of the church. With police blocking off streets along the route, cars traveled 4 abreast up Court Street. Police said when the first cars reached the new Cargill Church, the last cars were just leaving the downtown site. The congregation worshiped in the fellowship hall for the first 3 weeks because the building wasn't yet finished. But at 11 p.m. on Christmas Eve, 1960, the congregation of Cargill held its first sanctuary worship in the new building.
It was 60 years ago, and I was quite young then, and came in from the country. We lived across the river on the southwest side of town, and I drove here to Cargill for choir practice every Thursday night and on Sundays. But that was the first time, of course, that we were here 60 years ago. Then when we came on Christmas Eve, it wasn't finished here, but the whole narthex was filled with pine trees.
Wonderful.
And it smelled just lovely. And it was so beautiful, and everyone was so joyous. That's what I remember the most. All kinds of people milling around and oohing and eyeing over how beautiful the narthex was, and then filing into the sanctuary. And that's almost all I can remember about the first Christmas, except of course the service and Silent Night and all that we always have.
I distinctly remember that stained glass window being in the sanctuary at the old church. It was always so beautiful. I think it was the closest I'd ever been to a stained glass window when I was young. And to be able to look at that every week when we went into church was really was really special. I didn't understand what they were going to do with those stained glass windows. I mean, I guess I didn't have a concept that at that time that the building was going to be torn down. But I can remember it was a sunny day, and I remember driving, you know, everybody getting in their cars. There was a lot of excitement in the air. I know my parents were excited. And we just got in the back seat of the car, and my dad drove us in the procession all the way across town. And I remember thinking, wow, this is really going to be different, to go to a different building for church. And how was it going to be the same, or was it going to be different? In what way? I got older, I sang in a youth choir, and the youth choir always sang at the midnight service. It was 11 o'clock. And that was the one where all the college students were coming home, and it was mostly adults, and that was kind of fun to sing at that late church service. But the pageant was what was so very special. It was just, I just remember thinking, oh, I wish I could be in that pageant. I would just love to be somebody in that pageant. And I was very lucky when I was in junior or senior in high school. I got to be Mary. We would kind of tear around. I'll admit it. And we had the old collection plates from the old church down there. I guess they put one in each Sunday school room. And they were made of wood, and they were fun to kind of carry around and chase around with. And I distinctly remember hitting somebody over the head with one of those collection plates, and I really wish I could remember who it was, because I probably should apologize, but who knows? I'm sure, I would guess that boy remembers it, but I don't know who it was, so.